Mm.
How we doing, Diane?
Hey, how you doing?
I can't complain.
Well, that is
Hey.
a good start. I'm kind of half sharing my screen with Discord at the same time.
Eh,
So what's news? Anything?
Not a lot. I ran
No.
across a fellow that he lives in Germany, but I don't think he's German originally. Uh, Alexis. He has a site on YouTube called Nature Fold.
Okay.
You should see the
Stunning.
handheld springtail stuff he does.
Oh
Very
my gosh.
impressive.
So, okay, I'm gonna put on my iPad. Okay. Oh, here we go. Good, I got it. Quick. And it's called Springfold,
Nature Fold.
Naturefold. Shows you how well I hear.
Well, I have an 85% hearing loss, so that and I'm a guy, so I don't pay attention naturally.
I'm not saying a word.
Well, I call it like it is.
Okay, Naturefold. Of course, that's what I meant. Alex, Alexa or Alexis?
Lexus, yes.
Yeah,
Boy,
Alexa off. I got to
some of
deal
his
with.
videos are very impressive.
Okay, I'm following, and I'll keep an eye on him. I just, oh yeah, this guy. Yeah, I follow him. Yeah, he's gotten some really good stuff. What type of camera does he use?
That's a Fujifilm
Okay,
for the H series.
yeah, because yeah, he's got that special um whatchamajigger. He's got that
A diffuser on it.
flash unit. Yeah. Well, I guess this was one of his recent ones. Yeah, he can shoot that continuous flash thing.
Yeah, he's just shooting basically 10 frames per second.
Yeah, I can do 9 a second. I got a 5-year-old, 6-year-old Nikon D500.
Oh, I loved mine.
Oh yeah. It's for sports and birds. You can't beat it.
Well, I went to the Z9 and it does beat it.
Well, yeah.
It's
When I get
it's
rich,
actually lighter.
Well, that would be a nice thing because this hand is almost shot. Yeah, he gets some good stuff.
Yeah, I think he uses the Leica 25 and 65 macro lenses,
Mm-hmm.
main ones.
He's in the western part of Canada, or is he over in Germany?
I think he said he was in Germany.
Yeah, I think he was visiting over here for a bit.
Yeah. He goes through a segment where he's talking about why he chooses the different settings that he uses
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
what he does to control his backgrounds and foregrounds. And
Mm-hmm.
he's quite knowledgeable.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, he is. He's like a kid, a young kid or young adult.
Yeah. Well, once you hit our 70s, they all
Yeah.
look young.
Hey, I'm 65. I'm real close.
It's just
Yeah.
a whisper away.
It is. It'll be here faster than I can say anything, you know.
You
But
know, these days I wouldn't want to be younger. I'm glad
mm-mm.
I'm old.
Yeah, there's just too much. My son is really in tough shape a lot. You know, first he comes, it starts with autism when he was a little kid, and then it just rolled into so many other things too, like OCD and my cat is having fun in a bag. Um, and then anxiety, and he's just not the kid that he was, like the happy kid that I had as my little guy, but no, now he's addicted to his phone.
Too many kids are these days. My grandson, we were over in Scotland, Ireland, and England
Hmm.
last June. He spent almost the entire trip like this.
Yeah. No, no, no. Edison. Edison. No. Christmas tree could come down very quickly.
If
He's
somebody
feeling,
hadn't put a wreath up at the house, I wouldn't have had any decorations.
yeah. I mean, it is a lot. We have three small trees in the house, so in different rooms and stuff. So, um, she's just, feeling good today. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna be in for fun and hi, Jinx. I'll ignore her. Then it'll get worse.
Can't ignore a cat. They will
So,
they will bat you until they can ignore you.
oh yeah, she's really going for the tree today. I guess I I'm usually upstairs, but I decided to be down in the family room because it's a little warmer. It's not too cold out, but it's just a little warmer.
I just put in a one of the heat pump thermal systems,
Mm-hmm.
and it's commercial grade one. It's a Fujitsu,
Oh,
and
okay.
I've got an old Amish built house
Mm-hmm.
and 2,400 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Heats this place unbelievably.
Oh, good. Well, we have the mini splits with the compressor outside.
Yeah, that's
And
basically what this is.
yeah, and it
It's
does a nice job because we can get add-on to the radiators and stuff. So I think I like that. So what got you started
in
in macro photography?
macro. Well, I've been doing photo stuff since I was in high school, playing
Mm-hmm.
with it, developing black and white, and then I got into doing color. And then when I was a single parent with three kids, I started learning how to do weddings to supplement my income.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, I enjoy the heck out of this. And it just started going into taking landscape. And I always saw things that everybody else walked past. So I just kept getting closer and closer and closer. I was sitting at the VA one day reading a magazine. It was a photo magazine. God knows how many years old it was.
Mm-hmm.
There was this photographer that he specialized. and doing an ant study. And some of his
Mhm.
photos were just phenomenal. He was talking about focus stacking. So I said, hmm. So I asked if I could keep the magazine and referenced it to it and got a hold of him. And he told me what he used to do and how he got started doing all this and what he used to do it with. And I said, I like that. And it just kind of went from there.
Oh, great. We're getting a full panel up top, I see now.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning,
Right.
Ben. How was your holiday?
Mine was excellent. Yours?
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful,
Great time of
beautiful.
the year to get together with family and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Morning, Di.
Good morning, everybody.
Look at my sister's here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
I can see you.
Open your eyes. Try that.
Oh,
Yeah, there-
yes, there he is.
There you go.
Ta-da!
Alan, I
Yes.
just got a text from you. I haven't read it. Do I need to read it before this?
No,
Okay, I'll read it immediately.
Diane and I were actually just talking about this young fellow. It's
I've been following him for about 3-4 months now.
Who's this?
it's
Um,
Alexis, God forbid I couldn't pronounce the name. His
Oh, God,
YouTube channel is Nature Fold.
Yes.
mhm.
He's got some springtail stuff in there. Handheld macro in the field is phenomenal.
His name has come up before. Yes, I can't remember in the, where it was. I believe he has been to several of our live streams.
Oh, really?
Left some comments. Yeah, I'll get in touch with him. Bud,
Yes.
just opened a box this morning that arrived while I was gone.
Well, excellent. What do you think?
Woohoo!
It doesn't look like any normal record, but I'll be drilling a hole in it later, and I'll see if it works on the gramophone. This is a lovely, lovely disc. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the detail in that is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, and lovely, gorgeous. Not a scratch on it. Thank you.
You
And,
see the other half?
Yes, the filters. In one of the most entertaining instruction sheets I've ever read. Certainly. They have a way with words, the Chinese folks. But yes, thank you very much for the polarizing and color filters. They're fantastic.
Well,
I
this
see you have-
Reinberg, these are Reinberg filters, and what they do is let you change the color of the background, which is, I know, one of your things. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Thank you so much, but I will thoroughly enjoy learning how to use them.
Merry Christmas.
As will I thoroughly enjoy learning to use my new set of. Yes, we shouldn't talk about that though.
I
Right,
didn't see nothing.
Bud, on its way to you is a full set of 4 of these micro adjusting feet that they're
man,
not. That's
nice.
not what they're actually for, but
We can
these
use them.
things, you can set them to a very accurate height, and you'll be able to level your table with these just by drilling a hole through.
Yeah, we were going to use these to level the those micro circuit boards so I can check out the corners of some of my lenses.
It'll be a very handy way to, if you're using a laser to make sure your vertical alignment is is set. This will help keep the base completely flat. There are 4 of them, and they're all sealed in these bags where they were
Thank you very kindly.
stolen from some military installation, I believe. But,
Hopefully not to being tracked.
yep,
Some of the
they're
things are mislabeled. I tell you.
yeah. Well, this wasn't actually what I thought. I thought it would be a continuous movement microtome thing, but it's not. You have to pull it, turn it, and adjust it. But when you do, it'll be set, so it'll carry a great weight. All right. Who else did I need to thank? Bud and Alistair for all your help, as always, with bouncer duties. Thank you, and Susan. Enough said. Thank you. It's been a good year. All right, last after stack of the year is number, I think we're up to 13. And I was initially going to talk about some color tools, but that's all I've been talking about for the last month, and I'm thoroughly fed up with it. And it occurred to me that there's something that I haven't brought up for discussion that if you haven't used yet, you will eventually. If you ever give a talk or do a presentation or submit a photograph for an article, you're going to want to caption it. You're going to want to use some kind of wording on something. I use it on a daily basis. Many times a week, I'll use it to make all of my cover art, to do the competition, to add names and captions. And it occurred to me that there are some really cool things that I've learned over the years that aren't immediately apparent. And I thought that we could just walk through a few of those. I'll show you, I'll make a cover slide. A cover, album cover part for one of our talks next week, just to show you how I do it and show you the various ways you can tweak your type so that it's interesting and blends with the picture or stands out, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So before we begin, does anybody have any comments, questions, anything we need to clear up from the past? Bud, are there any summaries that need to be addressed?
I got busy with Christmas and didn't create any summary slides, so I apologize for that because we did the blend modes last time, and
I kind of feel
I got
like
some good comments.
blend modes are going to be such an ongoing discussion that it probably isn't something that would lend itself to a summary. But okay, then that's good. Christmas also caught up with me. I just got back from Tennessee. I spent it with my daughter and my son and had a lovely week. So a lot of driving, but it's good to be back. All right, I'm going to find I think I'll just use a blank slide. But one thing that's worth thinking about, if you're ever going to create something that has script on it that you're going to want people to see, choose a background that is going to give you room to do that. There's nothing more confusing than looking at a photograph that is consuming your interest on the screen that has type laid over the top of it, because you won't read it, and it's hard to see. I always, whenever I'm out in the field or even in the studio, I'll take some pictures where I set up the shot as if it's going to have a title on it. So I will shoot with my subject way over to the left and leave myself loads of room on the right, which is where I like to do it. I'm going to usually put a thumbnail picture on it as well, so I need to plan in advance. So we're going to assume that I've already done that, and yeah, I think what we'll do is use the last presume slide. We can do that. Actually, I'll tell you what. Let me just run into Lightroom and grab a picture before I share my screen. I'll just go with something I haven't done before. Maybe we'll do the next presume cover. Lightroom is awfully slow right now. Hang on just a moment. Tell you what, we'll just use a blank. We'll use a blank image, and then I'll show you how to lay it out once Lightroom opens up.
Alan, while you're doing that, can I mention that Lightroom and Adobe products are getting more expensive January 15th?
Please do. Yeah, go ahead.
So January 15th, those that are on the monthly plan are going to have their monthly plan at $14.95 rather than $9.95 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you switch to annual, it'll stay at the.
So the way around it is you have to make sure you're on the yearly plan prior to January 15, and it will grandfather you in at the $9.99. But you have to pay yearly, which is $120 a year. So if you want to keep the same payment, you just have to pay yearly instead of monthly, because the monthly plan is going away. And the cheapest plan is going to a terabyte of storage instead of the 100 gigabytes or 200 gigabytes that's current. And then the future is going to be $19.95 for a terabyte of storage plus what you have already. Nothing new.
Is it still called the photographer's plan?
There's several plans in there. You can get an isolated Lightroom for $14.95. You can get an isolated Photoshop without Lightroom for $14.95. If you want the package you have now for $9.95, it's going to cost you $19.95, $20 a month. So instead of $120 a year, it will be $240 a year.
What is the all access going to? Do you know?
Around 35, it seems.
Yeah, if you go for the low cloud storage, it's about 20 or 30 bucks cheaper than if you go for the 2 terabyte storage. I just switched from the 2 terabyte cloud to whatever, the 20 gigabyte or 200 gigabyte, and it dropped down, I think, $39 for all the programs and just hardly any cloud storage. I don't use the cloud on Adobe anyway, so
Nor do I. But the problem is it's hard to find where to change things. I've asked Adobe to call me 3 times now, and I'm yet to receive a phone call to get things changed. So they may just be inundated since the information has gotten out.
yeah, I went to the Creative Cloud and got into the change my plan and fussed around, and I finally found that I wanted, just downgrade my cloud storage but keep all the programs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
But
on the
what,
Creative.
but what you have to do is cancel your current plan and then add a new plan. Otherwise, you cannot do it. I got a hold of Adobe last week and was able to change it.
I heard if you canceled your plan, then you were committed to the $20 a month plan.
Right.
Plus
No,
it's
I contacted them and they worked me through it. Says you cancel your current plan, which I have is $9.99 a month for both Adobe and Photoshop, and they said you cancel that plan. They walked me through it and then reinstated it basically, as you said, at the annual rate.
nice. Okay, I'm gonna. I haven't verified that, but I will work on that. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, 'cause
Sorry, Alan.
I just switched from all access 2 terabytes to all access 20 gigabytes or whatever, and so I think I went from like $69 a month to $39 a month, and
Yeah,
but if I cancel before 12 months, then I get hit with a penalty. But
Anyway, January 15th is the date to remember.
okay, 2 weeks, 2.5. All right. Well, let me share my screen, and we'll just go from a blank screen to begin. A couple of basic rules, I guess you'd call them. Whenever I create a layer of type, whenever I put type on any slide, I put each block of type in its own layer. This is very important if you ever want to go back and modify them, or if you save them uncompressed or unflattened for things that you're going to use over and over again, but change periodically. It's vital that all your type be on a separate. It's not. I'm still seeing me. Are you seeing a blank Photoshop page?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So the way you get to your type tool, once you've created a new layer for the type, and you may or may not want to title it. I usually don't, because of course I'm writing and I can see what the title is, the content is. T is the keyboard shortcut for the type tool, and this is what your cursor looks like. There are 2 type tools. In addition to the horizontal one that you'll almost always use, there's a vertical one, and the vertical one is, as it sounds, let's choose a color other than white. It just does your typing vertically. Hardly ever use the thing, but it's there if you need it. We're going to talk just about the horizontal type tool, and I'll give you a couple of basic things to remember about it, and then show you some examples of how you can modify your type layer for effect, because that's really most of what you'll be doing. If you just want to type on a slide, on a picture, create a new layer, hit T for the type tool, and then click on your layer, and that will open up a window with the usual nonsense type in it as a preview, and it will be highlighted. You need to have your print highlighted to modify it, to change color, the size of the text, the type of text that you're using. And it's all changed either from the top bar along the toolbar in Photoshop, or from the properties panel on the right hand side. I actually use this because I will frequently change the spacing between lines. You can't do that from up here. So the types of things you would want to change would probably be the font that you're using. You have access to all the Adobe fonts, but one of the cool things is that it remembers what you usually use and puts them all up here. For titles, I'm a big fan of this Bodoni 72 small caps. It writes capital letters, but with an upper and lower case, and I use this a great deal. You can change your color either on the, the pop-up menu underneath your type, in the top toolbar, or in the properties menu. They all do the same thing. You click on it, it'll open a color picker. You choose the color that you want, we'll say black, and hit OK. But if you haven't got your lettering highlighted, it will not change. It'll change the font for anything else you type, but not for what's already typed. So now we've got it in black. You can change the justification from left, right, and middle. Put it wherever you want it. And you can change your font size by clicking on the font and sliding it. But notice nothing changed. It wasn't highlighted. If you click outside of the script box that is invisible, but if you click outside of where the letters stop, it'll open a new text box and make a new layer. It's a shortcut and it's handy, but it's frustrating if you're just trying to modify a line you already have. So be aware of the fact that you can be making lots of new layers without knowing it if you're not careful. So in order to highlight this, I will click in one of the words and then go back and highlight it. That's an important trick to learn. And then you can slide the font slider and change it. Now, there are two ways that you can modify a layer of type. One is through the functions of the typewriter. You can change the words, obviously. So when it's highlighted and I start to type, it'll put in whatever I want. I can go back, I can remove that typing just the way you would use a word processor. I can change the color of one letter if I want to, like so. And anything that you can do in a word processor, you can underline it, you can make it a superscript, anything that you would normally do. If you want to use this instead of a piece of script, if you want to use it as an object that you can edit with regular editing tools, you have to rasterize the layer. And if you don't know about that, it'll throw you off. For example, if you wanted this to be bent around an object, say, if you wanted to use the warp tool on it, you can highlight the script and go to my edit menus on the other page, I'm sorry, but I'm going to transform and warp. And when I do that, nothing happens. But the warp tool isn't showing up. Why is that? It's because the layer needs to be rasterized first. If you right click on the layer near the bottom it says rasterized type. It'll turn it into basically into a shape. Now, if I go to my edit menu and go to transform and pick warp, it now puts a warp box around the lettering, and I can treat it as if it were a solid object that I dropped in there, a shape, for example. So if you want to do anything that involves the object as if it were a block of the image rather than a series of letters, rasterize it first. You can unrasterize it just by going back to that same menu.
Allan, question.
Yep.
Can you make this a smart object and achieve the same thing so you don't use resolution if you magnify or minify it?
Yes, you can, and I usually don't because it just doesn't occur to me because I didn't learn to use it that way. But that does, if you make it a smart object, I'm not sure if you can still use all of the edit tools.
I mean,
Yeah.
prior to warping it or whatever you want to do, if you do a Command T to transform it and it's a smart object, you can transform it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. I'm going to put something in here. Yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll make it the presume title because that's something I do a lot. I always use a red P and I use this font and I make the P rather large. Whenever you have a letter or a group of letters highlighted, somewhere near it, your pointer tool will turn into the move tool whenever you have type in close proximity. If you click on it, you can move that piece of type. To put the zoom, you need to click on the screen to set that letter. Don't hit enter because your letter will be erased for some reason. I'm going to add another layer. Click well away from the P because I already know I have a huge font there and it's going to overlap. I'll make a smaller one, change the color to black, write in the rest of the title, and then move the whole thing to wherever I want it, like so. All right, so you can move the type all around, but be very careful that you're on the right piece of script. It can pick up anything. You imagine this has got a block, an edit block around it that overlaps with the zoom. So you have to be very sure before you change a color or size of the font that you're on your right block of text. One way to be sure of that is to come over here and make sure the right layer is checked. Notice how when I click on the field, it changes the name of the layer to whatever it was I typed. That's why I don't name the layers, because it does it for you. We have a P layer and a zoom layer. There are lots and lots of cool tools that I will use, both in formatting the text, which I'll get to second, but also in creating some useful effects for the lettering using this tool, which is it's for creating flags and giving perspective to your type. It's grayed out unless your layer is rasterized. So let me tell you what, let me get a new layer. We'll get rid of that. And we'll get a new layer in black, a little bit smaller. There we go. Let's say for creative purposes, I wanted to make this appear to be on printed on a flag, say with a ripple in the lettering. That's what this tool up here does. And it can't do it because I haven't. Oh, that's because of the style. I'll remove the style and then it'll let me do it. Okay, so this is just a shortcut to a lot of different warp tools that come with some presets that are very useful. Like, hang on, it's not letting me do it because it's not rasterized. Or should we make it into a smart object?
Yeah, let's try smart.
Let's do that. All right,
Down 2.
there we go. All right, let's see if that does it. So now what we're going to do is go to well, it's grayed out.
Do a Command T and see if it'll ungray.
Nope. I think it still needs to be rasterized. Yeah. Okay. So, nope, that didn't do it either. Oh, it's because I hadn't selected it. I just clicked on it, but I missed, and it created a new layer. So, hang on. All right. Yeah, I'll tell you what, the smart object thing is I'm not quite familiar with how that is changing my my workflow here. So for now, I mean, why don't you give it a try on your computer, bud, and then show me what I'm doing wrong in a minute. I'm just gonna go back to using a regular layer that's rasterized until I know what I'm doing wrong there. So once this is typed and rasterized, I can, all right, this is fairly typical of Saturday morning. Why is nothing working?
You need to select the whole word.
Yeah, it's not letting me select any of it. When I click on it, it's giving me a new window. It shouldn't do that. It should let me select this word.
What if you double click the layer?
Well, yeah, that's going to be what we get to in a minute, the layer style. Yeah, this is weird. Anybody got any ideas what's going on here?
I'm gonna give it a whirl on my computer.
Yeah, I mean, let me just try.
From there, highlight the whole.
Yeah, I mean that.
Now go into your pattern.
No, it's doing it again once I. Oh, you know what it is? I haven't. All right. Okay. Plan B. Oh, for crying out loud. All right. For some reason, there's some intermediate step that I am not doing that I'm supposed to do, but for the sake of this demonstration.
Now from there, select everything.
Yeah.
And now now do you have access to it?
I do. Okay, well, it's odd that normally I have to rasterize that layer, but apparently I don't. So that's interesting to know. There's a lot of different things that you can do with these that are preloaded warps that give you different effects. Very handy if you're using this to ornament or embellish a photograph. we'll go with that first one, the flag. The things that you can adjust are the amount of bend, very handy, the horizontal distortion to give some perspective, and the vertical distortion to make it fit with your theme. All very handy, and some more than others. Lot of different things that you can do with this, and it's right there on the toolbar. So we're going to cancel that, get back out of it, and I'm going to show you probably the most useful and important window on the whole thing. If you go to your layer of type and double click off the name, if you double click on the name, it will let you change the name. But if you double click over to the right, it opens the layer style panel. This is what I use probably more than anything else, and it allows you to do things like to bevel and emboss the type. And let me get in there and show you what that does. Beveling and embossing, you really, to learn these tools, it's best to just go in and mess around with them, but you have the ability to change you've got to click, by the way, on the layer that, on the effect that you're using. Otherwise it'll stay on the previous effect. So if I select inner glow, I can't adjust the inner glow without clicking on that layer, just so as you know. So we'll go down these real quick. Bevel and emboss I use a lot whenever I want to make a title look more dramatic. It creates this three-dimensionality to it, and you can change that in many different ways. Whether it's embossed on a surface or chiseled into it or chiseled down into it, you can change the depth and the direction, whether it's up out of the page or down into the page. If you look over here, you get a better view of from this thumbnail of what you're changing as you use the various sliders. Sometimes it's very subtle on the actual type, but it's not very subtle here. You can change the angle of the light so that it will change how dramatic your relief is. And generally, when you find something that works, it's good to stick with it. You can change both the color and the intensity of your highlights. Sometimes I will make the highlights add a little yellow to it. You see the very subtle change there? Just makes it stand out a bit. You can also change the blend mode with which the highlights are added, and the shadows as well. I exaggerate them by using screen and multiply, so you get a more stark relief there. Contour changes the cross-sectional appearance of the three-dimensional shape of the letters, and you can pick from this drop-down menu what you put on the cross-section. And oftentimes it's just a matter of finding the one that works and sticking with it. Some of them are very subtle and hard to really tell much difference in. But yeah, fun to play with. You can add texture to the letters if you so desire, but be aware of the fact that you can change the scale so the texture can become a very fine, which you would usually want it to be. Very interesting and exciting ways to make your script look more interesting. Stroke just is whether or not there will be a black line or white line, whatever you determine. Sorry, wrong one. Whatever color you want around the letter. For example, if you wanted red lines around it, that's all you'd do. Handy to know, but yeah, not something. Oh dear, here you go again. You click on the page and you're getting a new text block whenever the T is pressed. So let me get back into another double click, brings me back to the layer style panel. Double click off to the side, remember that. strokes off. I use inner shadow or inner glow. Inner shadow if I'm using light colored letters on a dark background to add a little bit more drama. But if I'm using, usually with a darker background, a lighter background and dark letters, I'll use an inner glow. This creates a subtle glow that goes from the inside of the letter out. It's a little hard to show in the actual type, but again, you can adjust everything about it, from the choke point to the amount of noise, the opacity of the glow. If you want to experiment with it, go drag your sliders all over the place and see what it does to the letters. But what this does is it makes the letter appear to have a glow emanating from inside of it. We'll change the glow to a color so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. It's just a nice touch. If we'll change that to, gosh, I hope I can remember all the things I've done so I can put it back the way I like it, but we'll see. You can make it softer or harder. By changing the choke point, you determine where the effect starts and where it ends, and the size is just how much of your letter it fills. That's an inner glow. I like to complement an inner glow usually with an outer glow as well. It's not in the same place, it's down below, but that just does exactly the same thing outside of your type layer. So if we'll pick a different color, okay, and increase the opacity and the spread and change the blend mode to normal. Oh my goodness. Don't know what I did there. Yeah. Okay. Change the blend mode to normal so you can see it. There you go. And that is your outer glow. And again, it's just if you wanted to add some drama to it, you can do that. I don't know what satin does. It just makes it all blends the layers together a bit smoother. Color overlay, yeah, you can give a color tint to the whole layer of type. Put a gradient on it is pretty obvious, and you can put a pattern on it. One other thing that's worth noting, if you're trying to create an effect where you're trying to show that the letters are actually have depth and are an object in your picture, adding a drop shadow can be pretty effective way of doing that, because it really makes the thing look like it's hovering above the page. Let's make it a bit more obvious. There you go. Spread it out a bit. So it's a very handy effect, and by using this dial you can move it to get the direction that fits with what you're trying to show. Yeah, you can even change the color of your shadow to make it more believable, like so. And all of that is hidden in this panel in the back. And these attributes are saved over in the layer menu. So you can go back in and change, for example, the drop shadow by double clicking on that attribute, and it takes you right to it. And you can change the angle very quickly. You can copy these attributes and apply them to another layer of type, so that you can have consistency. Same with the colors. It is a little difficult once you have applied these layer styles to go back and do global edits. Like there are ways that you can warp this, but you are much better off to warp it before you apply these layers, before you apply these effects to the layer. It's not nearly as easy to do when you have these effects in place. The other thing you'll probably from time to time want to do is have some of your script disappear behind something else. Let me make another layer and put a big letter there. We'll hit T for the type tool. Oh, no, I was already on the type tool. So put a capital A there. I'll highlight it and make it ginormous. And then as soon as I can find the drag point for it, I can't. If you can't get the move tool to light up on your letter, you can switch to the move tool and just move it the way you normally would. If, for example, you wanted this letter to appear behind the blue one, of course, you could just move it down below the blue letter like that. But if you couldn't do that because you had a picture or something that you didn't have a way to neatly slip it in. Sometimes what I like to do is have a letter intertwine with the legs of an insect, say, so that one leg's going over the letter and another's going under. Makes it look like it's really crawling over a solid object. And you can do that just by creating a mask. This is all very basic stuff. And then with a black brush, nice hard, still on hair brushes there, a nice hard round black brush. You can just, that's too big. You can just carefully and slowly mask out the parts of the letter that you need to give the appearance that the letter's on top. You know what I'm saying. I usually do it like this, really crudely, so I can see the letter, then switch to a white brush and put the black back in. But anyway, you're comfortable doing it. And I use these tricks all the time to just, it creates very minor ripples in the overall effect that I think most people don't even notice. But if you ever do take a closer look, you can see what's been done. Other tools for typing. What else is there? If you want to change a font, spacing. Yeah, spacing. Let's get rid of all of these. Spacing is important, and you probably already know all this from just using a word processor. But if we were to have, say, okay, a couple of things here. First of all, the two lines, I shouldn't have put them on the same layer, but I did for whatever reason. The type is a bit too big. We want the title to be more, the title of the program to be larger. So I'd like to shrink this down and maybe compress it and bring this spacing something more compact. It's just a matter of highlighting what you want to change, adjusting the size, and then if you also wanted to bring them closer together, I go over to the properties panel. This, which is the actually that's the, yeah, this is the spacing between the lines. If you click on it and slide left or right, you can compress the spacing down. It's the line underneath. It's the second line down that is going to move when you well, in this case, it's the one that is highlighted. If I'd highlighted both of the lines, it would, and then, well, I will do that. If I highlight the whole thing and then use this tool, it's the bottom section that moves. So remember that when you're using the tool, that the top layer is your anchor layer, and this will bring the lower layers up to compress it. All right. Any other anything I'm missing? How do you use the type tool when you're using it? And what did I miss?
Alan,
Yeah.
well, a couple of things I just sort of noted down. If you start off, say, with an image, whenever you press select the T tool and use it, it always creates a new layer from the very start. So you don't actually need to create a new layer to start with usually. And
The reason I do that, let me address them in order, is because if you don't select a new layer and you start typing, it will add to the previous layer. So frequently I'll do it as a termination of the previous episode of typing, because I'll often be adding lines that actually are sequential, and the program would want to just add it underneath, but by adding a new layer, it forces it into a new layer. If that
I think what
makes
I
sense.
meant was, you already addressed it really, but if you click away, on the new place, it will, create a new layer rather than continuing. It's
Right.
only if you get too close to the previous text, it will carry on.
Got it. Okay.
The other thing I was going to say about multiple text alignment, if you do like you're doing now, if you made a poster, for example, and doing multiple lines of text, Photoshop has a set of alignment tools that will allow you to make sure that everything's aligned. But a good trick of mine anyway is, if you quick and dirty method is, if you've got, say, your two lines there, you wanted them to be left justified with each other. If you just make them a bit bigger and use the slider and move it to the edge of the screen, you can very quickly have a guess as to ensure that they're vertically aligned. And similarly, if you've got text the other way, you can go to the bottom or top of the screen in order to make sure they're level. If you've got multiple pieces of text horizontally, you can just make sure they're aligned quite quickly that way. I also like to say that actions work very well with text. I know this is sort of obvious to most of us anyway, but if you just said you're worried about changing something you're used to, if you create something and use an action for it, you've got it there every time. That works really well with text. And the other thing I wanted to say was, again, it's sort of fairly obvious really, that the arrow keys are really useful for aligning text in microscopic amounts. That's all really.
Very good points, all of them. In terms of justification, and talking about actions too, the thing about the tool is I use it subtly differently almost every time I make a slide, because I'm usually working around a photograph that is going to require some odd spacing of the letters and justification to make everything line up. But generally speaking, I mean, if I want to line this up to my picture, I'm going to want to justify it in this direction. I just put use the justify tab and then move the whole thing. But yeah, it's that way. I've got it lined up with my edge. But yeah, I could. There's many different ways to do it, and using the arrow keys is great for fine tuning it. Like if I have an insect leg that's coming down at an angle, and I need to move the Saturday to the right, I can add spaces to it with the type tool, or I can highlight it and use the arrow key and just nudge it in that direction. Not when I'm at the edge of the page, but yeah. So I think they're all very useful. Now, when you say, what was the first thing you mentioned about alignment tools?
Well, there's also guides. You can use guides on your and what I do a lot of times, especially if it's like a new photo, I'll make my own guide set. So I'll make little boxes around them
Mhm.
so that you go to, let me go and switch it over
Yeah,
to,
I'll unshare here.
okay, so I go to view, guides, new guide, and I'll say I want to have it at the 50%.
Can you share?
Oh yeah, that's right. I have to put that back up. Doop, doop. Can you see it now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. So what I'll do is I'll go to a new guide. I have a custom color and I want it 50%. So it'll come up as that. And then what I do a lot of the time is I'll have a new this will be I usually call it guides. And then I go over to the pen tool and not the type tool, pen tool. And I'll just do a gray. Yep, I'm on gray. And I'll just put a gray line in, straight as an arrow. And then escape with that. And just leave it as is. Okay. And then I can just exit that. And then I'll go to my next one. Wait. Delete. Okay, that's it. And I'll just keep making one. So if I want to have this bunch of lichen over here separate, but I want to have like a, something of a saying over here, then I'll do the same thing. I'll put another guide in, new guide, and then I'll just black that off. And I want that at, whatever percentage. And I just make up a grid in the thing on another layer. And then I can then use all of the little, nudge it left, nudge it right,
Mhm.
Move tool. And I can have it laid out, and then I can change the type setting and all that. So
What
that's
does that
how I
do for
set them
you?
up. Huh?
What does that do for you?
Well, it just makes sure that, that when it's on a guide layer, right, it just helps me, if when I'm making it bigger or smaller. I also have preset guides that I use, which I can make them smaller, and it's this could be at the opacity of like 50%. So that way it's not really changing here. It just helps me figure out where I want to put stuff if I'm doing a composite photo as well, not just with type, so I can
Well,
do
one,
it. You can use filters.
I don't normally bother with that because I'm going for what's aesthetically pleasing when it's finished. So I just eyeball it. But there is one tool that this reminds me of is when you're moving around, especially with the move tool or any of the edit tools, when you're moving a block of text around, your upper and lower marks and your midline will show up if you have that set in the program. So I can be sure that
Yeah.
the middle of my word is lined up where I want it to be. So that's handy, definitely.
And that's
Yeah,
what I was talking about, Alan.
Oh,
That
okay.
the fact that you can individually move text and the alignment things. Or if you selected the move tool, they automatically come up, so it's very easy to make sure everything's level.
Yep, exactly. And that actually helps you with sizing too. If you can't, if for some reason if you're using different fonts, for example, you can't use the font size to get your the height of your letters exactly the same, but you can use those guides because it'll show you when you've lined up top and bottom.
Alan, do you align your shadows and lighting effects on your text layer with the lighting that you have on your
Absolutely, yeah. That's the whole point of it is to make it look like it's the title is actually part of the image. Yeah, good point. Good point. especially if I've got something that's obviously got a directional shadow to it. Yeah, the type definitely will play into that.
When I use type, I'm usually using it to label parts of a picture, not
Mhm.
graphic like that. But if I'm trying to show somebody something,
Right.
so I'll have the labels of the parts, and then I'm using the shape tool maybe to make an arrow over it. And so, but my problem's always been trying to get the sizing and everything, but knowing about that slider now, that can make my life a little bit easier.
When I'm doing labels like that, I will frequently just type them, all the labels I'm going to need anywhere on the screen, and type them with the same tool, make a new layer, but keep the font, color, everything the same. And then as I label them, I'll take one of them and just drag it to where I want it, and then use the line tool to just make a simple line from the end of the word to the structure. And that's the quickest way I've found to do it.
Yeah, because that's basically up to this point, that's all I've been using the text tool for is labeling parts. So
Well, it is very creative. There are a lot of fun things you can do with it in that layer, text layer panel, properties panel.
The other thing is, it's probably fairly obvious again, but if you select all the text layers together, you can alter the fonts and sizes all at once, which is really useful.
It is.
Are the alignment tools available when you select multiple text layers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when they're rasterized, they're kind of like shapes, and so they can do that. You can line them up.
Yep. It's the order of operations is important. I would certainly always prioritize doing any shape shifting or warping early, and then adding your effects to the type after, because it'll have to convert it back to type when it adds those effects.
Well, that's why I didn't understand the guidelines, because you could put all your text in multiple layers and line them all up and then just move them to where you want. And it would just be aesthetic rather than.
I often use guides also as so I can take the picture out and then use just the guides to be able to work on the text or whatever.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, and certainly that could have that points. I mean, could be times when that would be very useful, but for me, it's now just a matter of getting the picture, and I can already see the layout when I open it, and I just start typing. But and you know when you've got it right, and you know when you've got it wrong. When the letters are hard to see, or the anything is conflicting in the picture, it's obvious. And it's good practice with color too, because picking font color is super important to make the text stand out and make it. I look back at some of my earlier ones, and it's a wonder you could even read them. I mean, they're just terrible.
Does anybody else use smart objects for text?
I haven't.
I haven't either. I don't use smart objects as much as I should, but
I can.
Yeah, go ahead, but I'd love to see. I don't know what I'm doing wrong on that.
Let's see if I can share then.
You got it.
Okay, so why can't I see it? That's interesting. So let me pull up Photoshop. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Allan Walls.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, all I did was open a blank layer, and I just used the type tool. I didn't create a new layer. It creates its own. And if you come in here, do you have any keystroke that allows you to move things around, Allan, this layer? Besides, I mean, I can use the V tool, which is the move tool.
Mm-hmm.
Think.
Yeah.
Yep. If the layer clicked on, hit the move tool, and that. But remember, you can't move the blocks around. You can only move. You have to click on the letter itself to move it with the move tool.
You mean this?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can move it around, and I mean, you still have all of your type capabilities, but let's say that you've gotten, you know, wherever you want this thing to be and however big you want it to be and whatever type you want it to be. So if you're come back into it, you know, it's basically like so. Here's my type layer. If I go to Command T for transform, you know, you can still transform stuff, right? I mean, you're not warping it yet.
Yeah, click on the warp tool up above and see.
So the warp tool will let me do it. I guess it's not dropping down as it's supposed to. I don't think that's the warp tool. So
No,
what
that's the text warp tool that has the presets, the flags, and what have you in it, and that's what I couldn't get to work.
well, let me make this bigger because I'm sure that this doesn't show up for most folks. And I'm going to use the move tool to center it up, sort of. Is that big enough that everybody can see it? Or,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So at this point, let's just convert it to a smart layer and see what we can do with it. So now it's a smart layer. You can see the icon over here in the layers panel. And since it's a smart object, if I now want to transform it, I'm going to hit Command T. And you can see I'm in the transform mode, and I have this, I guess I can, is that the transform tool? It looks like I could type that way, but you see, I can still change all of these things in this smart object.
Right, but do that tab up at the top will give you the option of creating these presets, the flag and the ripple and all that those effects. I
So
could
if I
not get
click,
into.
yeah, so this is the trend, this is the warp tool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do anything you want, and I'm still inside this smart object. And when you click outside of it, you have no resolution loss because it's a smart object. So you could have made this thing extremely tiny. Oops. If I say okay, I can make this thing, well, it's not letting me do that either. So let me go back to here. And you know, you can make it extremely tiny. If you were to rasterize it, you're going to get pixelization if you bring it back up. But with a smart object, it's always going to be as sharp as it always was. See?
Yeah, except that it doesn't actually let you access the tool.
But it does. Remember, a smart object can be opened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to open a smart object, all you do is click on it, double, you know, boom, boom, and you
Okay.
get a third tab. And you're back to right where you were inside the text tool.
Okay, so now open the text warp tool there.
Well,
I
that,
don't,
It-
is it up
that
at
text is already taller than it normally is. How would you return it back to normal? Because it's already distorted.
I mean, all I have here, I'd have to put a white layer behind it. Let's see if we can do that.
I don't think you can on when you're editing the smart object. All you could do is like change the colors or what? Because right now,
Say, okay. Drag this down below it. So, you know, I can do that, but what I don't have is my canvas is not big enough. If I want my canvas to be bigger, I'd have to do something with this layer. If I go up to, say, the crop tool, I can make my canvas as big as I want it. Okay. I can also go to edit and fill. Well, let's see. I've got to get out of the crop tool here, so I have to say okay. And then I guess you could move this other layer around. So I'm going to click on the type layer, get the move tool, and move this thing back up to the middle. So you can put another solid layer behind this thing, because right now I am inside of the smart object. It's only when I save the smart object does it all collapse back into the envelope. So I can still do stuff to it. If I'm in the text layer, how do you get to the, I don't do much about text, but I guess you could, you could delete it, or you could add to it, or you could, change the color of a letter to some other color. Let's say we change it to a blue color. So I'm inside the smart object, so I have total access to the type layer. It's only when I go up and close this third tab at the top, because I'm now closing the smart object. Oops, I deleted something by accident. Let me Command Z.
Instead of closing the smart object, while you're in the smart object, can you use the in the type toolbar at the top, where it has the T with a curved line under it? Can you use that tool in there?
There's the warp text right there. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
that will let you. Well, that's just going to be the W. No, it's the whole layer. Okay.
So you're inside the smart object. It's just like you are not. You've gone back into a file before it was smart. In other words, you've trapped that set of layers in time and stuffed them into an envelope. But now I'm inside of those layers again, so I can do whatever you could normally do with it.
And how would this benefit? How would this benefit you in a practical way?
It's a
Well,
packaging thing.
I don't use type, but if I was going to use type, I would want it not to ever become pixelated.
Mhm.
As soon as you rasterize it and change
Yeah.
size, you pixelated it. So I try to avoid rasterization by using smart objects.
Got it.
So now
But,
I can
yeah.
change the size, I can stretch it, I can do everything you could ever do, because I can open the smart object, right? I can play with it just like it was never a smart object, but once I close it, let's say I okay this, I'm going to close the smart object. I have to do the check mark, I guess. I'm going to close the smart object, say save, and there it is, back in my main thing. I have the move tool, I can move it around. I can go to Command T for a warp, and I can still do strange things to it. And it's never going to become pixelated. Yes, ma'am.
But it's Gillian. I think if you have, it might give Alan the benefit of a template, because if you have your text in a smart object and you insert your picture into that smart object, you can replace a picture in a smart object. So you actually have a repeatable template.
Mhm.
I think that is correct. Since I don't use text, I'm not an expert at it by any means of the imagination, but knowing that how I use smart objects, I just use that on Alan's text thing here.
Okay, I mean that is an interesting dimension to it. I will have to play around with it and see how it does. As far as templates go, it's probably enough stuff that I use regularly enough that it would be handy to have a template for sure. I mean, a lot of the title stuff I do is repetitive.
I'm sure Bud will be able to talk you through how to replace a picture or an image.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have any trouble with that. Where do you store your templates, though?
Well, the smart object itself just becomes reusable because you don't always have to have the same picture in it.
So if you had a new title slide, how would you access that template?
Well, you just have a permanent file that you take, and each month you put a picture into it, and you fiddle the words how you want to, and you've sort of maybe changed colors or whatever, but you've really got everything aligned in the way. It's a repeatable process with a repeatable text, unless you want everything to look different, but then you can change it too. I think the skill comes in with knowing how to replace the picture.
Yeah,
Julie, wouldn't that be the same as if you had saves a PSD file, and you just literally change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
It's
what
just the
I.
rasterized thing that it's just Bud's comments about rasterization, how you lose things. It's if you, it gives you more options, I would think. But I'm again, Bud's the expert, so that's just what I wanted to comment.
No, it's great because I don't make templates. So yeah,
I guess I'm actually doing that without knowing it because I save these titles as PSDs, and then if I have one that's going to be similar to another, I just open it and change the picture, whatever. But I'm so fast at doing these, it would probably take me longer to find the file than it would to just make a new one a lot of the time.
Yeah, what I'm seeing this used for is like if you're doing different layouts or different same same text, but want to see how it looks with different.
Sure, absolutely.
Just be able to pop in a new picture and all the properties stay the same.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's what I would look at. Again, I don't use templates much, but I have seen the process. So like if you're doing like laying a texture over something, you want to try different textures on the same object, that works well if you have a template. So you're not reinventing all the time.
Yeah. Good. But then I'll, I mean, the way Photoshop saves stuff, that would be easy to find. I mean, that's what I do with my thumbnail pictures that I drop into these things. I have them all in one place and they're quick to find. Anything else? Does anybody else use the type tool for anything different, or use it in a different way? Or know of some way of making the letters even more interesting? There's
I use color overlay, but not for text.
Use what?
The color overlay is very useful if you're doing blend diff. Have you experienced that, anybody?
Mm-mm.
Can I share for a second?
Oh yeah, of course.
Quickie.
Yep. This sounds like one of those things I've probably done, but I'm not thinking of it in those descriptive terms.
Can you see my screen? So
Got
let me
it.
open. Remember this little guy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Tumbling
So
flower bug.
yeah, if you look over onto the right there, I've duplicated a layer, and above it, I have basically created an effect, which is sort of an extreme a contrast adjustment. You can see my curve up there.
Right.
But if you look down below, I've gone and made this thing into a smart object. Okay. And you see that I have restricted so that my white areas are not affected. Can you see that they're outside of these little guys? So anything above here is not going to be affected by this curve. And so sorry about that. So if you do a preview up here, that's not doing it. Anyway, so what I've done, the color overlay over here, I've opened it, but I've put it down here. You see it down below? So I've done that just so I could, let's just cancel that. So if I turn on the color overlay, you can see that it's a blue color. And what happens with this overlay is that you can change its opacity, of course, and you can see where the blue is affected, and you see the highlight areas are not affected at all. So you can see where when you apply the blend mode style back here, if I want to have more, you see how you can see what's not affected? So everything that I'm playing with that's turning gold is not going to be affected. So sometimes this color overlay can be used with the blend mode if you're unclear what's being affected. And that's really all I had to say. So you can add the color overlay. You can say, okay, you turn it off with the eyeball, back to where you were. You know what your blend effect is going to be, because it's only affecting the dark colors. And stopping share.
No, go back.
Okay. Back to share.
Yeah.
And back to Photoshop. Sir.
What are the two open tabs to the right of the image, the lower right?
These things?
Yeah, what are those?
That's just that's a Google program. It's a third-party option. It's the what is it? Let's see. I'll open one just to show you what it is. Slow computer. I can't wait for a new one.
What do
If
you?
everybody's going to buy computers, you might consider that import duties are going to get extreme next year, and whatever came from China might get expensive.
Yep.
It's not opening very fast. I'm sorry about that.
What is the name of the program?
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's the Nick collection.
Oh,
NIK.
Nick. Okay.
Yeah, that Google bought them, and
Oh.
I don't use it. I just own it. It has some good stuff in there, and if you go to
They had the
Dave
best.
Kelly, yeah, Dave Kelly uses Nick sometimes, and we'll go through some of the programs on YouTube.
Yep. They used to have one of the best sharpening apps.
They did, and it got later. So anyway, that's what that was. This is what it looks like. I don't use it, but it's another program where you can change stuff. So it's like DxO or Luminar or all of those kind of things. Topaz does some of that with their photo AI. So there are lots of third-party things that you can use. Viveza is one of them. See if I can get out of it now. Let's see. Quit. Those
I'm going
without
to ask
saying.
if anybody else has encountered this issue using Lightroom and Photoshop, where the default editor, external editor for photographs that you install becomes Topaz.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of that? Or-
I've deleted the Topaz and I still get it.
I think you can go to preferences in Lightroom. Shall we try?
I tried. I went to preferences, and you can choose the external editor tab, and it lists Topaz as the default editor for everything.
Allan,
yeah.
have you gone under file type? And it's the get info bit on the Mac. So if you bring that window up, and let's see, I've got an example, but somewhere down, not too deep, because it doesn't go as far as the file permissions. But let's see if I can do.
It's in preferences.
No, if you
Can you share?
two finger. Blah, blah, blah. I'd have to start up on my Mac. Let me see if I can.
That's okay. I'll share if I can figure it out. So you go to
share and walk Allan through it.
Two finger touch on the file. That brings up the little get info window that then rolls down all the info about the file. So it starts with general and more info, but around the middle of that panel, there's open with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right. I don't know because I haven't got Topaz, but if one of you got the example of that, if it's happening, it's like my JPEG files. By default, it opens in the image app preview on the Mac by default, but there's all the other programs underneath that I could select from to do it. In fact, I've just actually mistouched onto one of my Affinity files, and the default is not to open it in Affinity Photo, which is rather interesting. But yeah, so its default is there. But if you look down the list, you know, either for the default, it should tell you what it's going to do if you go to that file. And if it's wrong, then you should be able to, from touching on the up-down arrows next to the app that is going to be used, get the full list and go down and select it. Is that showing on yours, Alan?
No, when I go
Right.
to
Can you screen
my-
share,
my-
Alan?
yeah, I can. I'll just show you what my normal approach would be. Would be to, in Lightroom, go, you can't see it because I'm on the other screen with the title page, but I go to Lightroom Classic and then click Preferences. This window opens. External editing is the, yeah. I have Topaz Sharpen AI and listed as one of my external editors, but for some reason it always selects, actually it's Photo AI that it's, no, it is this Sharpen one. Everything that I try to import will list this as the default editor.
You should be able to do the drop down off where it says Topaz Sharpen AI. There's a drop down there. Yeah, click on the, you know, up on the, yeah, click there, and you should be able to. Okay, all right, so. All right, so that's supposed to be the additional one, but then up on the top where it says your Photoshop is going to open in Photoshop Beta, you know, so.
Yeah,
Can
this
you
is
just
what.
clear it?
Yeah.
Well, I've tried everything that Adobe suggested and Apple too, and it just resets to Topaz for some reason.
What if
If
you
you-
go over, Alan, and choose on the Topaz one, go down out to the drop down where you were before,
I'll go to the right and choose
to the
clear.
right.
Clear?
Yeah, go up one, go up and hit the blue arrow there. You see where you can say delete restore default presets maybe? Yeah, click on that and see what happens.
Goes to Sharpen.
Weird.
Choose
I guess
clear.
Weird.
Hit clear and see what it does.
Okay, so
Damn.
there it says not specified. Okay.
It's just not. It's like
Possessed.
it's like I installed a bulletproof step that no matter what button I press, it will send the picture to Topaz Sharpen, which is literally never the choice
Right.
for me to send a picture to. I mean, it's going to go to a raw editor if anywhere.
What if you
Alan,
just
Have we not just, it's a preset, isn't it, on that Topaz bit? So what's happened at the moment is the name of the preset Topaz Sharpen AI has been changed, but underneath where the app was not specified does now choose
choose,
become
go out to
invoked
the
because
right,
it's
choose
Photoshop.
Yeah.
25.
right.
Yeah, just choose the standards Photoshop.
can you explain what the problem is again, please? I don't really understand.
Yeah, I'm not doing a good job of before I choose that. Yeah, the problem is that when I import photographs from a card, not directly into Lightroom, not using the Lightroom interface, it will automatically presume that if I'm going to import them, it's going to send them to Topaz. It's the default editor, so I can't open a picture that isn't coming through Lightroom without it going to Topaz or without me changing the destination.
Do you mean that if you've got a JPEG or something on your screen and you
Yeah.
double click on it, it opens in Topaz rather than in Lightroom?
Yes.
That's a
Yep, and then you have to
function-
stop it from working
That's a
and close
function
without saving.
those of a default app. I can't speak for Mac 'cause I don't understand it, but in Windows you just change the default application. And
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what I've tried using every approach to changing. I mean, ultimately, I guess it's the Mac that's giving the instruction that I want this thing sent to Topaz. So
Alan, do you want me to go the sort of image where I share my screen on what I was explaining with the
yes,
get
yes,
info
please,
bit,
absolutely.
and stop me as soon as it's I'm going down the wrong rabbit
yeah,
hole. All right.
absolutely.
Yep. So I'll pick up the share.
It's an interesting problem. It's been going on for years. I meant to talk about this a long time ago.
That's the
So this is
so
the Affinity photo file I just mentioned. In fact, actually, no, it has picked
That
up the
looks like a
JPEG thing
get
from.
info.
Yes. So there's the file type I did. Fine. Okay. More info, and then just down here is where this is telling me for the JPEG files, wherever it's been generated from or whatever, but preview the default imaging app on the Mac.
Yep.
Will open those, which I'm fine with because it's nice and simple. But if I didn't want that, I could go down and change it to any one of those. So I don't know if there's anything showing up on the files that in this window for you that is pointing to Topaz.
Yeah, they are. When I right click and open the get info window on a file that I've imported, but it is not in Lightroom, this is the window that I get, and the default is always set to Topaz, whereas it should always be on preview. And I change it to preview, and the next time I restart the computer, it's back on Topaz.
Yeah, did you do it? Did you make sure that you change all? Yeah, that button right there. If you do hit the change all, then it'll assign that
to the file
program
type.
to all JPEGs or
Yeah.
RAW.
I was thinking that it might be a permissions issue because every time I tried to reset it, it would go back to Topaz.
But you're the administrator on your Mac, Alan, yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I worked out that the troubles I had recently, just to give a little bit of backstory, it's because I have an administrator account and I'm just a user. So I try and protect things a bit by doing that. If someone got in, they wouldn't be able to do all the root stuff. But yours is, yeah, you can do whatever you want without moving off your account. Yes?
Right, correct.
Right. So if you look down the permissions, you'll see on this file that, yeah, it's me. And everyone has no access. So I'm the only one that can do anything. So I would expect any changes. And as Julie just pointed out, yeah, it's if you make it on the file, then I would say, well, that's only going to do that one file. And every time you double click it.
And you have to.
Yeah.
But why then would it happen when I have removed Topaz and I've removed it from my plugins on Photoshop?
Yep.
And again, when I open up a SD card and I'm scrolling through them, if I hit my space bar, it'll come up in preview.
Right.
But
Are you?
I'm,
Oh, okay. Right. So,
but then if I might have like just touched the next one going, it'll all of a sudden it'll open. If I just use the arrow key to go to the next image, sometimes it'll just bop up in Topaz.
I think you might still have some links to Topaz in the library modules.
Oh,
yeah, because the delete, isn't it, Julie? It's not absolute, is it? You can get some tools off the Mac App Store just to safeguard
go back
yourself
into the
because if you still have some of the hooks
that are just somewhere grabbing on like
it's in completely removed, I would guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
does
Nick,
it
I
get
have
in a TIS, Diane, on that? If it because you haven't removed it completely, does it then get in a TIS because it can't open it?
Well, every time it does open, it says that I have to buy a.
There we go.
So that's the kicker.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah. Sorry, bud. Yeah.
So after you change this open with preview, does your window have to be unlocked at the bottom to make that change?
Yeah.
I would only be looking to, if I was doing permissions, because if I do the twisty on there, you see
Mhm.
the open with bit shouldn't require any sort of administrator authorization on it.
I still
But I
have
won't
to unlock that
dismiss the
lock at the
policy.
bottom.
Right.
Yeah, I would
Right,
think you have
okay.
to unlock the lock at the bottom anytime you change the info window.
Right.
No, just so if you're changing the access permissions.
Is that
Oh,
the only
okay.
time? Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, because you already have
I
read
usually
write.
unlock it when
Yeah.
I'm working in that window. But
Yeah, doesn't hurt, but it's, but if you hit the change all, it should populate out to all files of
JPEGs.
that type.
well, I'll go back and I'll try it again. What
Yeah.
bothers me most is that it's obviously a sticky setting that when I reboot the computer, it starts over again. So
Maybe contact Topaz and ask them why that's happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Topaz has any humans working there.
Yeah.
No Williams?
No Williams, none at all. They're all over at WeMacro. But
Yeah. Yeah, but problem I always have is I have Photoshop set as my default program to open from Adobe Bridge, and almost every time it still opens in Photoshop Beta, and I don't use Beta unless I'm doing something very special. So I always want to open in Photoshop, and it keeps trying to bring Beta into the equation. And even though it says default Photoshop, it'll still hit me with Beta. And
well, I'll dig a little further into this. I've got some editing to do today, so I'll see if I can. I'll try everything that you've mentioned, Nick, and go through all that again, and hopefully get it sorted. Okay, guys. Anybody have anything else they want to share? What are we doing next time, Bud?
I don't know. What do you guys want? Talk about. It's a forum.
I'd actually like Alan and yourself to do use of color, how in Photoshop to get complementary colors, because it used to be all in Photoshop, but now moved to some external tool, and I don't have a proper workflow for analyzing color anymore in Photoshop, but I don't know if that's only me.
Yeah. That's what we were going to talk about today. Shall we do that? Are you up for that, Bud?
Sure.
Color, everything, all color. Next time. That'll be easy. I've got a slide I can just copy over for the title, and we're good to go.
Well, why don't everybody consider bringing, something you can share so that we can work on things
Yep.
that we don't have to put together anything formal. We'll bring together some maybe some programs to show you how to get complementary colors, and
Yeah.
we can do some blending.
And also, if you could talk in Lightroom, there are those 3 circles you can use to adjust colors. If you could talk through that in a bit of detail, that would be quite nice too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understood what you said.
the color grading.
Color
Color
grading.
grading.
Color grading, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about the hue, saturation, luminance panel, and the color grading panel, and the and Bud's favorite, the whatchamacallit panel at the bottom. What is that thing again?
And that's the calibration.
Calibration panel. It's magic. Yeah, we'll talk about all 3 of those, and
Thank you.
that'll be fun. Yeah, and it'll kind of tie up color month. Has everybody submitted a competition entry or 3 for this month?
Yeah, I got mine in.
Can we still do it?
How do we send
In the
it?
next
okay?
24, 48 hours.
Did it go in okay?
Yeah, mine went in. I checked. It's still sitting there.
It
Those are
better,
3 of
because
them.
I paid $500 to upgrade the site, so it should
Okay.
take all your pictures now.
You put them in Discord?
No, I
What?
put them in through the Walls app.
Walls app.
Yeah.
Walls app, competition, submit your
Yeah, yeah.
entries, 3 entries, you've got 2
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Mega prizes this time.
Better get busy.
No
And
pressure.
Les is my judge on it, so it's gonna be fun. Okay, everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Stay safe this week, and I'll see some of you on Tuesday, I'm sure. Thanks again, Bud. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
Right.
Let me know what you think about that disc.
Oh, I've got one thing to do before I get to the disc. I brought back a gallon of pond scum from Tennessee.
You cross
I
the
am
state
so
lines with pond
excited I
scum?
can hardly stand it.
Mm-hmm.
You can
You
see
cross state-
stuff swimming around in it.
You
Yeah.
you cross state lines with pond scum?
I did. I did.
Oh, you're not going to test for any chemicals, are you?
No, ma'am.
Did you bring back a jug of moonshine?
Something is really. This might actually be moonshine. There is something skittering across the bottom here.
That's probably a mosquito larvae. I would
Yeah.
suggest cheesecloth on the top.
Yeah, I'm gonna start looking at this right now. Actually, so have a good one, everybody. See you
All
during
right,
the
have a
week.
good one.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.